Okay, we're doing some ribeyes today. We've got 4 nice ribeyes from Costco. We're gonna reverse sear these, so these are gonna be smoked, and then we'll finish them off on the flame to get a nice crust. We're not gonna cook them for about 5 or 6 hours. So right now I'm actually just gonna season them and put them in the fridge, let that seasoning adhere, soak up as much as it will, and then we'll come back and cook them later. I'm gonna do 2 with Holy Cow from Meat Church, and then 2, this is actually a great seasoning, this Jack Daniel's seasoning. So a little bit of olive oil on the outside, and then we'll coat them up. These are very thick steaks, so these need a lot of seasoning. I could have dry brined them overnight, but I decided not to because, you know, they're thick, but they're not so thick, and they're pretty, you know, these are pretty good cuts of meat, so I don't necessarily need to do that. So let's just get these coated, we'll put them back in the fridge, and then we'll cook them a little bit. Alright, so they're all seasoned. If you noticed, I got every single piece of this meat, so it's very thick. So we need to put a lot of seasoning on, more than what you would expect, and we need to season every single side. So I'm just gonna put these in the fridge, just like this with the rack, open air. What's gonna happen is the seasoning is gonna pull out some of the moisture, and then the steak is gonna go ahead and reabsorb the moisture and take some of the seasoning with it. So basically dry brining, except we're only gonna be doing it for a few hours instead of overnight. Again, I did not dry brine these overnight. These are probably, I don't know, 1.5 inches thick. Dry brining is great, but you have to be careful because sometimes if you dry brine a piece of steak that's not that thick, it'll end up too salty and too mushy because that salt penetrates and starts to loosen up the meat a little bit. So we'll get these in the fridge. We'll come back in 4 or 5 hours when we're ready to light our fire and start to cook. Got the fire lit here. We're trying to get it up to temperature. The goal is going to be 300, 250, 300, something like that. It doesn't need to be exact, it just needs to be stable. We're smoking ribeyes. We're going to reverse sear them. So once this starts to get up to temperature, we will put the diffuser plates on. So this is an indirect cook. We'll get the steaks on. We seasoned them earlier. We'll get the steaks on. I'll have the meter probe in one of them. My wife likes well done. I like medium rare-ish. So we'll put the meter probe in there. That'll help us monitor the temperature, and we'll start to pull some and leave hers on and things like that. But we'll check back in as that. I'm gonna go ahead and get the steaks and let them rest out. Let's get them down closer to room temperature. You don't want to put cold steaks on the hot grill because that'll bring down the temperature of the grill, and you know, maybe have us messing with the temperature a little later if it dips or anything like that. So I'm gonna close this lid, let this go. Once I see it closer to 300, maybe at 200 or something, I'll put my diffuser plates on, which I have right here. I'll put those plates on, then we'll close the lid, and once it's stable at like 300 or so, we'll go ahead and put the steaks on and let them go. Okay, so our grill's up to temperature. We're exactly at 300. We have that good blue smoke. We have our 4 ribeyes, our 2 that we seasoned with Holy Cow, and our 2 that we seasoned with Jack Daniel's seasoning. They're gonna taste very different. I actually prefer this on steaks. I haven't tried this yet on a full-on ribeye, but we'll see how it goes. My wife likes well done, so we have the meter probe plugged into hers, and essentially I'm gonna set the app up to give me alerts for, you know, when it hits 140 for medium rare, when it hits 160 for well done, and that's what I'll know how to pull these. So let's go ahead and get all of these on. This will be hers because it's a little beat up, but also because she likes well done. So we'll get these on. This process takes, you know, an hour and a half. And essentially what we're gonna do is we're just gonna smoke these steaks. And then once we're done, you know, once they get to the internal temperature we want, we'll take them off. And we will put them in some foil just to let them, reabsorb some of that moisture and let them cool and settle. When we do that, I'm gonna take the heat deflector out We'll let this get as hot as possible, and then we'll bring these back to sear them and get a nice little crust. So let's close this lid. I'll be monitoring the app to know what temperature these are at, and that'll tell us what we need to do and when we need to do it. So here's a quick look at the meter app. So inside the app, the thermometer will calculate how long it's taken to get up to temperature, how much time is left to get to the desired temperature. You can also set alerts to notify you at specific temperatures, both inside the meat and inside the cooker itself. Alright, the probe, the meter, just alerted me that this steak internal temperature is 140. So I'm going to check these and see where they are, because I don't have more than one. So we're at 140, 141, 138, and this is 140. I'm going to let this go for a few more minutes. We'll get it to like 145 or so. Then I'm going to take these off. I'm going to leave the well done one. I'll take these off. We'll cover them in foil so they can rest. And then I'm going to take the heat deflector out, the grates out, and we're going to let that fire get as big as possible. So we'll come back in a couple of minutes. I'm just going to keep checking the app. But we'll get back here in a couple of minutes when I think the other ones are at 145. It's been about 5 minutes or so. So I'm going to get these other ones off. We'll leave this one. I'll get these off. I'm on a cutting board over here. We'll just cover them in foil. We're not wrapping them in foil, right? We're not trying to bake them or anything like that. We're just covering them in foil so that they can come to temperature and rest a little bit. All right, that didn't work. So we'll cover these in foil. We'll give it until the other steak gets to 160. When that one's at 160 internal, which is well done, that's when we'll take that one off. We'll cover that one as well, and we'll go ahead and we'll get everything out. Let this fire come up, and we'll put those steaks back on. All right, I got an alert from the probe. This steak is cooked. So let's go ahead. That looks great. Let's go ahead. We'll get that off. We will put it to rest with the others on the cutting board. She's literally just going to rest. It's going to sit under this foil. Just sit there for 10 or 15 minutes. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this stuff out. Take our heat deflector out so that this can really get very hot. So what I'm doing with this is I have a rubber mat on top of my table. I've laid some tin foil over that rubber mat, and I'm putting that on top of the tin foil. And inside the grill, let's get you close so you can see what I'm doing. So inside the actual grill, so we went ahead and removed the heat deflectors. I'm going to put the grates back on, but I'm going to put them on at the low point because we want these as close to the flames as possible. Gloves like this are key during something like this because otherwise I'd be dying. So we're just going to open our bottom wide open. I'll leave the top open for a little bit. We want this to really flame up, get as hot as possible. And then we're just going to put the steaks on there, a minute or two each side, and really just sear them off, get a nice coat, a nice crust on there. And then we'll let them rest for another minute, and then they're good to eat. So we'll just watch this get up to temp. This is plenty hot now. It's been a couple of minutes. These have rested. So we will go ahead and sear them off. You have to take the probe out. when you do this. You can't be putting that probe on direct flame. So we're just gonna get these on. You hear that sizzle, let them sear. Just let them sear directly over those flames. Cut a few of these open, see how we did. So that whole process, start to finish, was an hour. All right, so this is the well done one, and this is perfect. Saw a whole bunch of juice come out. So this one came out perfect for my wife. See how we did here. This big one will be a nice test. This whole process was 45 minutes to an hour, start to finish. It was 45 minutes to cook, and then by the time you let's see what we got here. All right, we overshot here. We definitely overshot. So that ended up being pretty much well done. I think these all did. Okay, so we overshot. I didn't have the meter probe inside of these, only inside of this one. So this I was just assuming would be cooking at the same temperature. So they're still really, really juicy. I'm sure they're going to be, actually, let's just try it. I'm sure they're going to be fantastic, as they always are. Yeah, it's unbelievable. So, taste is great, texture is great. We can just pull it off a little sooner if we want to get a little more pink.